Very good morning, friends. This is the third session of MMPF002 on the subject Capital Investment and Financing Decisions. I am Aseem Kumar. I am the resource person for this particular course. Friends, till 15th of July, we have covered the block 1 financial decision and overview. Within this particular block, we have covered nature of long-term financial decisions, cost of capital, capital structure decisions. So these three units we have completed up to 15th of July of block 1. In block 2, we have completed investment decision under certainty. It was block 2, the title was. And we have completed unit number 4, project planning and formulation. Friends, today we are going to cover in the same block 2, investment decision under certainty, unit number 5, 6 and 7 on the subject investment appraisal, evaluation criteria, unit number 5, project implementation and control, unit number 6, and social cost benefit analysis, SCBA in unit number 7. With unit number 5, let us just understand what is the nature of capital budgeting. See, capital budgeting is a managerial technique of planning capital expenditure. In the previous classes, we have learned about the working capital management, but now it is a capital budgeting, which is talking about the planning of capital expenditure, whose benefits are expected to extend beyond 1 year. See, all those capital expenditure, whether it is the buildings or the, say, the infrastructure, plant and machinery, or any new facility we are just talking about, it is always giving you the benefit for more than 1 year, say for a longer time. So, such as expenditure on acquisition of new building, improvement of existing buildings, replacement of plant and machinery, acquisition of new facilities, new machines, etc. Permanent addition to working capital, R&D expenditure are also regarded as capital expenditures. Friends, capital budgeting technique involves matching of expected net cash flow from the project with anticipated cost of the project. With these two components of the capital budgeting technique are determined of investment outlay. What is the utility of capital budgeting? Let us just understand. Capital budgeting is the most important technique employed in assessing financial viability of projects, and for that matter, allocating prudently the funds, amongst the project by providing useful guidelines in identifying useful projects and ranking them in terms of economic desirability. Why? To choose the most promising one, because the most promising one will definitely be giving you the credit the earliest. Thus, it helps a firm in strengthening its financial health and so its competitive position. Capital budgeting also acts as a planning and control device as well. Okay? As a planning tool, it helps the management to determine long-term capital requirement and timings of such requirements. It also serves as a control device when it is employed to control expenditures. Okay? Because budget, as of now, the budget is also a control mechanism to know about what are your plans, what is your vision, what is your mission, and how you are going to incur the expenditure in the next financial year. However, capital budgeting as a technique of decision making suffers from the problem. What are the problems involved in the prediction of future cash benefits? Cost of capital. This is the decision making suffering you have that you are not in a position to predict the future cash benefits, cost of capital. Further, it fails to take cognizance of total consequences of the decision. Now, as far as the capital expenditure are concerned, they will be just giving you the, say, the benefit and other consequences. But if you are just looking at the total consequences of the decision, maybe you will not be finding the success somehow. Investment proposes an administrative aspect. When you are just giving a capital budgeting, definitely you are asking for the funds also for longer term. We have just seen that when we are just investing in the long-term assets, in the assets which are more than 1 year of use, then we need to have the investment proposals also accordingly. So capital budgeting process involves several steps. What is the first step? The first step in the capital budgeting process is to assemble a list of proposed new investments together with the data necessary to appraise them. Although practices vary from firm to firm, proposals dealing with the asset acquisition are frequently grouped according to the following four categories. Replacement of existing old project. Okay. Expansion, additional capacity in the existing product lines. You are going for expanding the additional capacity you are generating. Growth, new product lines, something research and development have been completed and now you are, say, due for launching the new products. And other, for example, pollution control equipment. As of now, the industrial areas are also having certain disciplines which you have to follow. So pollution control equipment is again an expenditure which of course is a heavier one, but the utility of that particular investment goes for a longer time. Other important aspect of capital budgeting involve the administrative matters. Why? Because approvals are typically required at the higher level within the organization as we move away from replacement decision and the sums involved increase. It is not a normal maintenance. Now you are replacing the assets. So definitely the sum involved will be higher and it would increase rather than the normal maintenance or repair. Choosing among alternative proposals. Again, we have just said right now, in most firms, there are more proposals for projects than the firm is able or willing to finance. Always there will be certain proposals, certain other things would always be there, but you need to prioritize that. You need to prioritize that. And that is why you have to choose what are good and what are not so good, or otherwise you may call it poor also. And the method must be developed, the methods must be developed for distinguishing between the good and the poor. There should be a mechanism. Essentially, the end product is a ranking of the proposals and a cutoff point for determining how far down the ranked list to go. So, in order of your priority, you will be just finding out, you will be starting with the excellent, then very good, then average, then poor. Our next understanding goes to estimating cash flows or capital budgeting. Estimating cash flows, because when you are thinking that you are going to spend this much, then definitely you have to arrange the cash also. So how you are to estimate that? That is also vital, say, program. Cash flows for capital budgeting purposes are defined as the after-tax cash flow. Why? Because tax is again a statutory liability for an all-equity financed firm. See, algebraically, if we are just talking about this definition is equal to earning before interest and taxes, EBIT, earning before interest and taxes. Less the taxes the firm would pay if it had no debt. Okay. So, taxes EBIT plus non-cash depreciation, that is delta depreciation. So, delta cash flow, it is a formula. Delta cash flow is equal to delta EBIT minus T EBIT, okay, X delta EBIT plus delta depreciation, because depreciation is not at all a cash expenditure. The amortization and other things you are just spending, say charging it against the revenue, but you do not pay any cash against the depreciation. Evaluating investment proposals. Now, once you are in know of the alternative proposals you have jotted down, you have thought of that this is excellent, this is very good, this is good, this is average, this is poor. Then you are estimating the cash flow for capital budgeting. And now evaluating the investment proposals. Now you are just getting those proposals, you have to evaluate them also. It is not that the proposals which are just coming, it will be through at once. No, it will be needing some kind of evaluation as well. So the point of capital budgeting, indeed the point of all financial analysis, is to make decisions that will maximize the value of the firm. Okay. So the capital budgeting process is designed to answer two questions. Which of several mutually exclusive investments should be selected? Which of several mutually exclusive investments should be selected? Number two, how many projects in total should be accepted? So these are two vital issues, vital questions. And then among the many methods used for evaluating investment proposals, 5 are discussed here. We can just think of 5. First is payback method or payback period. Number of years required to return the original investment. That means we are just talking about the investment, not a permanent investment, but for more than 1 year, and maybe it is less than 5 years or more than 5 years or less than 10 years and more than 5 years. Like that. So number of years, payback period, because ultimately you have to just think about that how this original investment would be required to return. Required to be returned. Of course, you can just pay them the yearly dividend on that, but apart from making the dividend or the interest, you need to think about their repayment also, or the channelizing of those funds after their maturity period. A return on investment, ROA, a very famous dictum, or return on investment. An average rate of return on investment employed. It is very important. Suppose your production is giving you the return on investment, say 10%, and your return on investment is coming out to be 11%, you will definitely have to think about certain more proposals, because there is a very thin margin you have. Okay. But if suppose you are to pay for the investment made by others at the rate of 8% and your employability of those funds yielding 10%, then it is a matter of plus. Next is net present value method, present value of expected future cash flows discounted at the approved cost of capital minus the cost of investment. This is called NPV method. The internal rate of return, IRR, interest rate which equates the present value of future cash flows to the investment outlay. That is internal rate of return. And finally, profitability index, PI. It shows the relative profitability of any project or the present value of benefits per rupee of cost. Capital budgeting method in practice. You see, the above discussion leads us to conclude that IRR, NPV, and PI methods will result in the same decision, except in certain cases involving mutually exclusive projects or non-normal cash flows. Now the question arises that which capital budgeting technique do firms actually use in practice? Friends, for that, Lawrence Gitman and John Forrester conducted a survey to help answer this question. What they did? Gitman and Forrester received 103 usable responses from a survey sent to 268 major companies known to make large capital expenditure. What they found? They found that the responsibility for capital budgeting analysis generally rests with the finance department. Fair enough. The respondents also stated that defining projects and estimating their cash flow were the most difficult and the most critical steps in the capital budgeting process. Because you have to just think about that how much you are going to earn by deploying those funds and how much you are going to pay on the investment made by the others. Friends, with that, we have completed unit number 5. And now we are just moving on to unit number 6. After understanding the capital budgeting methods in practice. Our next topic is project implementation and control. Project implementation and definitely its control as well. First, we have to just think about the designing of the monitoring system. That is, the control mechanism start with the monitoring system only. So the first step is, if you are to design a monitoring system, the first step in setting up any monitoring system is to identify the key factors to be controlled. Now, what you have to control, you have to know about. If you do not know what is to be controlled, then say your monitoring will be 0. All right. Clearly, the project manager wants to monitor performance, cost, and time, but must define precisely which specific characteristics of performance, cost, and times should be controlled, and then establish exact boundaries, quote unquote. Exact boundaries within which control should be maintained. You see, when you just go to school in your school time, there was certain school boundaries, okay? So the monitoring mechanism was that there was a control within that boundaries. You were not supposed to go out within the school time. If so, you were just taking the permission and then only were going out. So like that in the establishment also, the exact boundaries within which control should be maintained is to be there. And there may be other factors of importance worth noting, at least at certain points in the life of the project. Now, the best source of items to be monitored is the project action plan. See, when you have to monitor means what? The project action plan, because all the way the projects are always for a limited period, maybe 1 year, 2 year, or 3 years. So the action plan also is just to be prepared and that has to be monitored. The best source of items to be monitored is the project action plans. It includes everything. Actually, the set of action plans that describe what is being done when the plan, level of resources, uses for each task, work package, and work unit in the project. The monitoring system is a direct connection between planning and control. Okay, there is a direct connection because once you plan, you need to ensure that it is being monitored and the control mechanism is in place. So it is a connection between these two. If it does not collect and report information on some significant element of the plan, control can be faulty or missing. If suppose you are not in a position to connect the two ends, planning and control, there is some kind of control which could be faulty or missing. The measure and reported to the control system, but it is not sufficient. You will be getting certain reports because you don't have the link in between, therefore it will not be sufficient. How to collect data? See, definitely at the time of monitoring, you have to just match that also, what kind of data it would be, what kind of information you will be just needing, how you will be monitoring, what will be the standard, what are the other things you will be just thinking for at times when you are just collecting the data for going for the action plan monitoring. Now, given that we know that what type of data we want to collect, the next question is how to collect this information. All right, how to collect this information, that is very vital issue. So a large proportion of the data collected may take one of the following forms, each of which is suitable for some type of measures. All right, you may say that there are certain different types, but forms would be the following. The frequency counts, frequency, one, again one, again. The occurrence, the simple tally of the occurrence of an event. If it happens more, that means the frequency counts are more, it is on a higher side. If it is less, that means the frequency counts are less. So this type of measure is used for complaints. Definitely, being a student, if suppose you complain once, you complain for the second time, the alert system then start working when you are just complaining for the second time. Because definitely the other people also, they are monitoring and they will be just say concerned about what kind of complaint it is. If yes, what are the way outs, because it is taking time at some other desk. So number of times a project report is late, that again is one of the feature, whether it is coming out to be a late project report you have to submit. How many times? Again, the frequency counts. Bugs in a computer program. How many times you are just getting setback in your computer programs? And similar items. The component of the action plan are coming out to be counted as per their frequency. Let us understand like this. Raw numbers, dates, hours, physical amounts of resources used, and specification are usually reported in this way. Okay? These numbers are reported in a wide variety of ways, but often as direct comparison with an expected or standard number. There is a direct comparison, raw numbers. All right. Next is coming out to be the subjective numeric ratings. These numbers are subjective estimates. Usually, what do you do? Of a quality made by a knowledgeable individual or groups. The person is from the company, might have been given the additional responsibility or so on. So these numbers are subjective estimates, usually of a quality made by knowledgeable individual or groups. So the knowledgeable word is just coming out with the paramount factor, and anyone can just make all these ratings. whether individual or the groups. Fourth measure, if you are just look at, it is indicators. Indicator, just when you drive, you just say indicate that you are moving on the right side, left side, or it is in the parking stage. So when the like that in the business also, when the project manager cannot measure some aspect of the system performance directly, it may be possible to find an indirect measure on indicator. Indirect measure on indicator, which could just help you out that okay, where you are, what are you, whether you are in safe zone or it is just coming out to be dangerous. Verbal measures. It may so happen that sometimes you don't need to just go for the written things. Measures for such performance characteristics as quality of team member cooperation. Quality of team member cooperation. There may be more than one people, and when they are not finding cooperation between 3 or 4 people, you cannot just take up the other members and going for the interaction. So moral of the team members or quality of interaction with the client frequently take the form of verbal characterization. See, as long as the set of characterization is limited and the meaning of their individual terms are consistently understood by all, these data serve their purpose reasonably well. But if it is not understood, if consistency is not there, then definitely this data may stop giving the actual purposes you have planned for. Now, after the data collection has been completed, reports on project progress should be generated. It's again a time monitoring. These include project status reports, time/cost reports, and variance reports, among others, if we have the evaluator as well. This causes and effects should be identified and trend should be noted. Plans, charts, and tables should be updated on a timely basis. Now, this monitoring mechanism is just giving you a sort of basis on which you can just give them an idea to move on or to stop it. Information needs and the reporting process. See, everyone concerned with the project should be tied into the project reporting system. The monitoring system ought to be so constructed that it addresses every level of management. But reports need not be of the same depth or at the same frequency for each level. Of course, you are touching all the people, but then the contribution and the kind of attachment would vary at all different management levels. For example, lower level personnel have a need to offer detailed information. Any person who is to execute the job, they need a detailed information about individual tasks and the factor affecting such task, right? But reviewed frequency is usually high for the senior management levels. Overview reports describe progress in more aggregate terms with less individual tasks. Details reports are issued less often. What kind of reports we have? Report types. For the purposes of project management, we can consider 3 distinct reports, 3 distinct types of reports. One is routine, which you are just doing it on daily basis. The exception, which is not coming daily, but exceptionally it is just occurring under the special circumstances. Therefore, the third report is special analysis. Once the exceptions are coming and it is becoming routine, you have to think about the special analysis thereafter. So the routine reports are those issued on a regular basis. But as we noted above, regular does not necessarily refer to the calendar. For senior management, the reports usually be periodic, but for the project manager and lower level project personnel, milestone may be used to trigger routine reports. At times, it may be useful to issue routine reports on resource uses periodically, occasionally on a weekly or even daily basis. Okay? After looking at report types, we have to just look at project control. We have just understood the report types, how we can just prepare it, whether it is monthly, whether it is weekly, or even daily basis. We have to understand how to get the control of the project. Let us just understand what is the nature of control. What is the nature of control? See, control is the act of comparing the planned performance with the actual and reducing the difference between the two. The planned and the execution. The difference between the two, if we are giving a sort of reducing difference, that means you are better controlled. It is also the last element in the implementation cycle of planning, monitoring, controlling. Okay? Because control is the last step in the ladder. So first you are making planning, last you are doing controlling, in between whatever you are doing it is called monitoring mechanism. What are the objectives of control? The regulation of results through the alteration of activities. See, once you are just getting some result, you have to just think about whether to alter or to carry it on. If needs alteration, definitely you have to just alter those things and regulate it so that at least the results are becoming better. The second objective is the stewardship of organizational assets. How to take care of the assets? Because if assets are not working properly, your production would stop. Now let us just understand what are the types of control. Types of control. Physical asset control. Now the physical asset control requires of the use of these assets, how you are using it. It is concerned with the asset maintenance, whether preventive or corrective. At issue also is the timing of the maintenance or replacement as well as the quantity of maintenance. You see, when you purchase a machinery or a vehicle or anything, you need to know about whether you are just maintaining the normal maintenance or it is preventive or corrective. Okay? There is no replacement plan as well. But if it is maintained well, replacement would be less. If it is not maintained well, the replacement cost would be higher because you are not able to just go for the quality of maintenance. Okay? Our next control is human resource control when you are dealing with the human, say, resource. So the human resources also need both regulation and conservation. When people are needing to be controlled, people are needing to be regulated, stewardship of human resource require controlling and maintaining the growth and development of people. So what is the human resource control? It is the controlling and maintaining the growth and development of people. Okay? Financial resource control. The most effective and very vibrant control you need to just go for. Though accountants have not succeeded in developing acceptable method for human resource accounting. It is going on, but not yet it is universally accepted. Everybody has their own methods for human resource accounting. Here, work on techniques for the conservation and regulation of financial resources have certainly resulted in excellent tools for financial control. Therefore, this is the best developed of the basic area needing control. Best developed of the basic area needing control. Now, after knowing about the types of control, now we have to just know about the types of control processes. Types of control processes. First one is cybernetic control. Cybernetic control or steering control is far the most common type of control mechanism. Cyber is the Greek word of helpsman. The key feature of cybernetic control is its automatic operation. It's automatic operation. Okay? Like, for example, you are just finding out the robots are working or the computers are working or automatic signaling is just coming up. So automation is there and therefore it is cybernetic. Now you have to just think about the process, go or not go. A decision has to just come out. So go, no go control takes the form of strategies to see if some specific precondition has been met. This type of control can be used on almost every aspect of a project. The standard and its actuality, the measurement, the variance we have to just find out. For many facets of performance, it is difficult to know that the underdetermined specification for project output have been met. The same is often true of the cost and time elements of the project plan. It shows that they are still in pipeline. They are still just going for post control. Also post performance control or post project controls are applied after the fact. One might draw parallel between the post control and locking the barn after the horse has been stolen. But post control is not a vain attempt to alter which has already been occurred. See, whatever has been occurred means occurred. You cannot make any creation. Yes, you can think of for future. Instead, it is a full recognition of the George Santayana's observation that those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat. Don't do that every time. This is the message. Cybernetic and go, no go controls are directed towards accomplishing the goals of an ongoing project. Post control is directed towards the improving the chances for future projects to meet the goals. Design of a control systems. Irrespective of type of control used, there are some important questions to be answered while designing any control system. Who sets the standard? How realistic are the standards? How clear are they? Will they achieve the project's goals? What output activities, behavior should be monitored? Should we monitor people? What kind of sensors should be used? Where should they be placed? How timely must monitoring be? How rapidly must it be reported? How accurate must sensors be? Sometimes you are just controlling the creative activities. Creative activities, it's just giving you the innovation plan. Some brief attention should be paid to the special case of controlling research and development projects, design projects, and similar processes that depend intimately on the creativity of individual and teams. Simultaneously, we have to just look at the progress review. The progress review focus on the process of reaching outcomes rather than the outcomes per se, because the outcomes are partially dependent on the process used to achieve them. Uncertain though they may be, the process is subjected to control. Control of inputs resources, in this case, the focus is of efficiency. The ability to manipulate input resources carries with it considerable control over the output. Obviously, efficiency is not synonyms with creativity, but converse is equally untrue. Creativity is not synonym with the extravagant use of resources. It could be creative, but again, the cost control also need to be maintained. With that, friends, we have completed unit number 6 as well. Quickly, we are just moving on to unit number 7, the social cost benefit analysis, SCBA. Friends, in order to estimate the gains occurring to the society, social cost benefit analysis technique is used. This technique is based on the branch of economics known as welfare economics. Welfare economics analyzes the public decisions that impact the economic interest of more than one person or society at large. The issues which SCBA tries to address are what social choices decisions are best when available choice will affect welfare of different sections of society differently or even oppositely. In SCBA, in addition to financial perspective, we incorporate the following aspect: impact on input and output market, shadow pricing using market prices or benefit transfers, use of non-market valuation techniques to account for missing or incomplete markets where price is not a true indicator of the value of transaction. Friends, in order to understand application of SCBA, let us first understand what is market failure. Market failure means there is some kind of deficiency you have in your process. And why government need to intervene in the economic sphere, even in developed and advanced economy. This is called a regulation of the government. How? Let us just understand. Concept of market efficiency. We have to just think about why it fails, because first we have to just think about what is called efficient, right? What is called efficient? The efficiency in terms of Pareto efficiency is described as an efficient outcome in the market is such that all agents have maximized their personal gains and no further gain is mutually possible. The efficiency level, the bar. This implies that no one can be made better off without making anybody else worse off. Somebody would be down, then only somebody could be up. Inefficient allocation is the one where gains from the market have not been fully exploited. Once you are not giving the resources in full, your market is not fully exploited and exhausted, and there exists a potential for further improvement. Always it would be. This potential for further improvement is not explored due to variety of reasons. The main being huge requirement of funds, lack of access to technology, and long gestation. Once we are just talking about these three, the requirement of funds, lack of access to the technology, and long gestation period, we get some setbacks, which is called market failure. Theoretically, in a perfectly competitive market, theoretically, private sector would invest in projects where net benefit is positive. Always, as always. As a result, no unproductive projects would be ever taken up as private firms, individual take rational economic decision to maximize profits and in the process would maximize benefits to the society. This is the presumption. This is the presumption, and theoretically we presume. This implies that the private sector can achieve allocative efficiency without intervention of governments. This is again a sort of good feel factor. See, when you are just having a feel good factor, you don't need the intervention of the government because the presumption is that you are having a perfectly competitive market and you are not going for any unproductive activity. But the real situation, we know that there is no economic system which can be called perfectly competitive and at the same time cater to the often complex and diverse demands of the economy. It happens. Practically, the scenario is different. Due to this reason, governments often intervene in the market just to regulate them. Okay? It could be the regulatory of prices, it could be the regulatory of the quality, it could be regulatory on the processes. Few of the reasons which lead to government interventions are market failure. If market fails, definitely government intervention will be there. Improving the allocation of scarce economic resources. The allocation of resources, scarce economic resources, which are less, you have to improve their allocation. You have to just look at the welfare measure also, not the profit measure always. And then it leads to redistribution of income, resources, and welfare gains. The society gains. And to harness the potential of unused resources requiring huge capital outlay. Now, unused resources having the huge capital outlay, you harness the potential of that. Okay? And are often the projects with long gestation periods, meaning no economic return there for quite a bit of time. So you need that government intervention to just regulate that either or to support the, say, failing economy. Economic decisions that result in inefficient allocation of resources are termed as market failure, and consequences are market outcomes which are inefficient. The major reason for market failures are market power, externalities, public goods, incomplete information. The market failure is just getting the, say, market power, maybe because of the system, maybe because of the monitoring, maybe because of the control mechanism. Externalities, that means you can control internally, but for the external forces, you need to go for a sort of wider compromises. Public goods, incomplete information. Types of SCBA, ex ante SCBA, this type of SCBA is conducted before the start of the project. The finding of this SCBA is input for authorities to make decision about the project regarding continuous or otherwise, and about the quantum and timings of allocation of funds and resources. Ex post facto, that means it is undertaken after the completion of the project, right? The timing of undertaking this type of SCBA is crucial, as some of the outcomes, positive or negative, will only be evident after a lag of time, not immediately. Important point is ex post SCBA is that by the time this exercise is conducted, all costs are sunk, meaning all the resources allocated has been used. Therefore, it will have no bearing on current allocation of resources for the project. This SCBA may provide benchmark for future similar kind of projects, reveal what to do and not to do for future projects. In media residence SCBA, this type of is planned, conducted midway during the project, policy under investigation. This type of SCBA has two-way benefits. First, it reveals whether or not to continue, and allocate further resources. The first one. Secondly, midway corrections to reduce the expense and the scope. The corrective measures can be used. Third one is comparative SBA. This type of SCBA compares the finding of ex ante analysis with that of exposed or in media. This is mainly done to evaluate the efficiency of ex ante and in media SCBA for decision making and evaluation. It also pinpoint the accuracy of assumption and estimated used in ex ante SCBA. Basic step, define policy and counterfactuals. Step 2, identify which section of the society gains and which loses. 3, identify the cost and benefits, the impact categories, classify them and select measurement indicators. 4, predict the impact quantitatively over the life of the project. 5, monetize all impacts. 6, discount benefits and cost to obtain present value and compute NPV. 7, perform sensitivity analysis. See, conceptual foundation of SCBA, whether to use SCBA as additional tool for decision making or to completely avoid it broadly depends on the objective of the policy or project. However, if it is used as input for decision making, we shall be very clear about the conceptual foundation of this method. The broader objective of SCBA is to measure the efficiency of alternative projects, and in context of SCBA, efficiency is described in terms of Pareto efficiency. Valuation method. In the previous section, we had discussed about measuring social surplus. Based on unknown demands and supply curves, based on assumption of preferred markets, but in the real economic situation, they rarely exist and market are often distorted by some kind of market failure such as monopoly, information asymmetry, externalities, public goods, etc. In these situations, where the observed policy of goods and services do not reflect their social values or for more complicated observed, price just do not exist, we use different techniques to measure the benefits, which are as follows. Correcting market price for distortions, number 1. Number 2, revealed preference method. There are 4 subparts: hedonic price method, the travel cost method, averting behavior method, cost of illness method. Number 3, stated performance method, and number 4, the benefit transfer method. Friends, with that we have completed the block 2 and up to unit number 7. In the next class, in the next session, we'll be starting with block 3 and unit number 8. Thank you. Namaskar.